Well, Rich, well, here we are then again.
Here we are again.
Another week, another subject.
Yep.
What episode is this then?
This is episode 23. Episode 23. Welcome back, all of our listeners and viewers who've kept coming back to us and seeing whether it got any better for the next episode. Hopefully it is. Hopefully it's improving.
Of course. Every time we do this, we get better. So what were we talking about today then?
So we're going to have a warble. We're warbling with Kirsty Duck from Face to Face HR, which is a franchised organisation, a bit like our good selves, but she covers around the Wiltshire area. And Kirsty's got some great insight into employee journey with organisations. And also start, a little bit of a chat around who is around you, supporting you in your business ventures and where you can get to with those. So that's what we're going to be having a chat with Kirsty today.
Can't wait. Let's hear what Kirsty's got to say.
Over to you, Kirsty, and me.
So, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for taking time to listen to our interview today with Kirsty Duck from Face to Face HR. Thanks for joining us today, Kirsty. If you'd just like to say hello to the listeners and let us know about you and Face to Face HR.
Okay, well, thank you for the airtime, Richard. So, yeah, I'm Kirsty from Face to Face HR. I've been in HR for 20 odd years now, in different environments. And I've been doing my own thing now for just under a year. Fantastic.
So we're having a chat today because of the importance and the link between the HR, the human resources, they're called people. People. That's amazing, isn't it? The people and how that environment and the way they operate and their engagement can impact the other people involved in business, the customers. So in terms of your view of what's been going on this year, I know I've spoken to you throughout the year so far, and we've had some great discussions about the impact of the lockdown, etc. Now we're through that, but other things are starting to happen. What's your view at the moment, and what are you seeing as the key things that are coming out from the employee engagement side of things at the moment?
Well, I guess employee engagement is part of the life cycle. There's a life cycle of having an employee, and you have somebody at the very beginning of a journey in terms of if you're going to hire somebody, you start to engage with them through the recruitment kind of thing. And at the moment, there's masses of people, as we know, unfortunately, looking for jobs, and a lot of people applying for the same job. So when you engage at that level, your adverts, your advertising has to help with that screening to help them, deselect themselves or continue to apply for the job. And then you go through a recruitment drive. And I think very often employers can forget to think about the impact of their recruitment. So bear with me with this, Richard. So if you after I started doing this in a role a few years back, where after recruitment drive, we would bravely approach those people that didn't get the job, as well as those people that did join us, and ask them what their experiences was of the recruitment process. That was a really good insight to how people outside the business saw us and how they experienced interviews and stuff like that. And then if you think about the rest of the journey, they're then employed. You want to keep employees engaged through various engagement surveys. Talking to them is always useful, and just sort of acting upon what they have to say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
And it goes right on through the journey until they leave, and through that life cycle of being an employee, through to exit interviews, and just collecting information about their whole experience of being there with you, what they thought was wonderful and what they thought was dreadful, even through to maybe having an alumni. So there is a whole life cycle of an employee, one who doesn't quite make it to being an employee but experiences business, through to somebody that does and drops off at the end. for whatever reason.
Yeah.
I think you have to be really brave to engage with your employees, because you're going to hear stuff you don't necessarily like.
What a great way of putting it. Absolutely. You do. It's the same from what we talk about the customer and any feedback you're asking about. You've got to, get in there. Some of the stuff's going to be great, and some of the stuff, the chances are you probably know, don't you? Particularly from an employee point of view, picking up on those. And that whole journey piece is really interesting, because obviously we talk about the client journey or the customer journey, but therefore there is that employee journey as well. And you mentioned that sort of exit side of things, and gathering data there. That's really interesting, particularly now, and being about the last year and what could have been happening to employees. And if we're getting to the end of this month, going into sort of Christmas time, and maybe people are leaving organisations, it's going to make a big difference. How does that, from your point of view, impact the employees that stay? How do they then engage? Does engagement continue for them, or does that drop off? How does that work for those that survive, if you like?
Yeah, that can be really, really hard, because everybody will have been obsessed with the redundancy process for a period of time, depending on the number of people. If it's like 3 or 4 people, it might have just been a week. If it's more, it may have gone on for a few weeks. And then, of course, for over certain numbers of people, you have to go for like 30 days or 45 days. Mm-hmm. These things can take ages. The stress on people is immense. Even when you're safe, when you've been told, okay, you're no longer at risk, that energy, that anxiety you were carrying for a long time can hang around. Mm-hmm. And also you feel for those friends and colleagues that you've lost. And also sometimes people, and haven't been in this situation myself, I've been made redundant, I've made people redundant, I've seen other people, friends be made redundant. So it's like I've been on every side of the coin, although there's only got 2 sides.
It's a multi-sided one.
But there's a sense of loss, there's a sense of guilt for still being there. There's a lot of emotion, and I know you do a check-in engagement tool, don't you?
Yeah, that's right.
To carry that from like a healthy position of the company, where they're kind of like everybody's bobbing along, through to like a redundancy being announced. God, the data you would get would be up and down like a yo-yo, through to, especially if you followed somebody that was just happy in their role, then redundancies were announced, going through the process, knowing that they're safe, and then the business carrying on after, because that anxiety of when is this going to happen again just hangs around. And that's where communication is key. I've learned over the years that people are really resilient, we're great at that sort of thing. But it's the surprise of not knowing, and redundancy just being blasted out there, right? This is where we're at, and like no heads up before that the company was ever in trouble. And I think business owners, one way of engaging with people is to sort of let them know, okay, the order book is a bit slow at the moment. We all need to be making this sort of effort. So it's just so there's don't scare them. It doesn't necessarily need to be scary. This is just the life of a business. It's up and down, and engage with them and talk to them, and you can sort of take the journey, because that massive shock of just pulling people into a room and announcing is too much sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, that impact will come through in terms of interaction with customers, whether it's face-to-face, digitally, or the processes they're put in place, because, we can get to that point where we almost think, can't be bothered today, and if that can't be bothered today as an employee could have quite an impact in terms of a customer, whether they're loyal to you, to your organization, or new to your organization. So it's a really interesting point to make. But I think that echoes that communication point you made there. It echoes the one that we talked about with the customer side of things as well. You communicate with customers. What's changing in your organization? How are you doing things differently now because of the world we find ourselves in that you did before? You need to let people know, because surprises are not particularly great for anybody, going forward. So, in terms of wow, it's been from an HR point of view, all sorts going on, isn't there? There's bits of legislation firing out every 5 minutes from the government, changing X, Y, and Z, different ways of doing furlough, all of those things.
Yeah.
If there's one or two things that you'd like our listeners to sort of think about or keep to the forefront of their minds as they come to the back end of this year, what would that be from your point of view?
I think just surround yourself with experts and sort of because there is a lot of information out there at the moment, and it can be really overwhelming. And it's the planning. I think I was talking to a client the other day, and what we're going to do is plan for the worst, kind of hope for the best. We're also planning for the best as well. So worst case, so we know what we're going to do. Worst case scenario, if we need to let people go down. So we're sort of planning for using the job support scheme. We're looking at whether we need to incorporate the job support scheme local lockdown sort of version of that. So if the government shuts business, and we're just sort of planning month by month what that looks like, and at what point people might have to start being made redundant or coming off the payroll, or shortening hours, and how that might look, and just looking at lots of different scenarios. That can take a lot of effort, and also you need other people. Sitting in a dark room with a spreadsheet on your own doing that is all well and good, but you need some other pairs of eyes around you to help you be a bit more creative. For the best will in the world, you'll just look at it in just a couple of ways. You need other people to sort of go, well, have you thought of this, and have you thought of that, or actually that's never going to work.
It's a challenge, isn't it? Challenge the thought processes. Okay, so fantastic.
So my tip is to plan possibly for the worst, and sort of lots of other options with all the information we've got, and get others to sort of help you do that. Fantastic,
thank you. Great insight as always, Kirsty. Thanks ever so much. How can people get in contact with you if they would like to talk all things HR?
Okay, so the website is www.face-to-face-hr.com. It's .com, isn't it? Yes, it is. I was just looking up at my other screen.
Well, you've got to be sure. So people will know where to get you. Great.
I'm on LinkedIn as well, and there's not many Kirsty Ducks on there, so you can find me on there.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for your time today. Again, a neatly packaged interview that we like to do with everybody, just to get some insight from other angles from a business point of view. So thank you very much for your time, and lovely to see you.
Thank you. Good to talk.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Fantastic. So I thoroughly enjoyed that chat. I love talking to Kirsty. She's brilliant, really, really good. Got loads of insight, as you could tell, but just puts it across in a really, really meaningful way, a nice, a simple way, which is critical. What did you pick up most from that one then, Ryan?
Do you know what? I really liked Kirsty's simple, down-to-earth, common sense approach to HR. Because, I don't know about you, and this is not to cast these aspersions on any HR professionals, because I've got lots of friends that are very, very, very experienced HR professionals, and they're amazing people. But sometimes I think when you start to talk about HR, it's kind of like the dark art of HR. And what I loved about Kirsty's view on it was really simple. And this whole piece about the life cycle of an employee, almost this kind of cradle to grave journey that an employee goes on with you as a brand, really mirrors what we talk about when we talk about customer experience. When a customer starts on their journey with your brand, and what I really liked as well was the simplicity of the conversation that she is suggesting that as an organization you continue to have with your employee on an ongoing basis. And more and more, I don't know about you, Rich, but when I'm talking to my clients, when you start to analyze what the opportunity is from their customer experience journey, 99.9% of the time, that starts with their employees. Who knew? Because ultimately, it's the old Sears model, isn't it? Happy employees, happy customers, happy profits. Yep. So, what a lot of what Kirsty was saying and pulling us back to was basic stuff. Talk to your employees, ask them, what do they think? I love the word, be brave. Yeah,
Yeah.
lots of people. The amount of clients I meet who are really afraid to find out what their employees think, and I get it, right? I get it. We've all been there, right? I get it.
Yeah.
But ultimately, if you don't know, you don't know what you don't know, and therefore you're never going to move it forward, are you?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really interesting point you made. This week, I've heard 2 or 3 people say exactly the same things. Yeah, we're not really sure we want to find out. You know, we've been talking about our instant insight tool, gives you great feedback in the moment, etc., etc. It's a great way of gathering ongoing feedback to avoid problems growing into these big things. And I've been talking about those. People say, great idea, but we're not really sure we want to know. And actually have been saying that. And particularly now in the situation we find ourselves in, organizations that do that, okay, it's your choice, but you are going to find yourself falling behind, because those organizations that do want to know and are brave about asking the questions are going to be able to solve the problems, change the way they do things for their employees, which is going to have a massive impact, as we say time and time again, on their customer and that customer journey, loyalty, retention, attracting new customers, and ultimately them spending more money with your organization, which in itself will make
I was chatting to a lawyer this morning before coming on to do this podcast, and he made this comment, and it really stuck with me. He said, you know what, in the legal industry, he said, you know, we make money despite of ourselves. And I thought that was brilliant. He said, because people need us, he said, his words, not mine, there can be an arrogance in the sector that says, you know, we don't need to do anything with our clients because people need us. He said, you know, and the reality is, he said, most law firms could double their profits if they just looked after their clients better. And I thought, I can't, with music to my ears. But then the conversation progressed, and we started to talk about, you know, how do you look after your clients? You know, well, how do you look after your employees? And that created a whole huge debate around, well, yeah, I'm not really sure we know. You know, we asked them annually how they feel, but, you know, that's annually, you know.
Yeah.
How do they feel? How does the receptionist feel today that's picking up the phone and is the face of my organization?
Yeah.
We don't know.
No, exactly. Yeah. It's a really interesting point, that one. And I love the fact that, you know, if I've sold my house a number of times, I think I've told this story a number of times as well. Sold the house a number of times. I've never used the same solicitor twice. Never, because of the service I've received. Yeah. You know, I've always got, I'll give these guys a go. We'll give them their turn to see whether they can. No, they can't. No, no, fine, next. So it's really interesting. But to that point, and moving off our great interview with Kirsty, but actually to something that's coming up fairly soon, LegalCX is also on the horizon, isn't it, Ryan? You're sort of in charge of that from an Insight 6 point of view. So, well,
don't promote me. Don't promote me.
Why not? Because it's a fantastic series of sessions.
Well, it is.
The legal sector.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you for saying that.
That's all right.
I just want to come back to a point that really links Kirsty's comments to LegalCX, and that is, she talked in her session about surrounding yourself with experts, trusted advisors, people you can go to give you advice, and LegalCX is all about that. LegalCX is a series of 4 webinars. We're covering having great conversations with your clients, how that can uncover work. We're talking about when you get your clients through the door, how do you convert that work? We're going to talk about, once you've got your clients, how do your people look after them on that client journey? The 4th webinar is when you've looked after them, how do you get great feedback? So those clients can be your biggest marketing tool. And then the 5th webinar is all about talking to those experts, surrounding yourself with experts. So we've got some expert speakers on each webinar. They're an hour and a quarter. PM me or PM Rich if you want to know more about them.
We'll also put up there will be a link to the Eventbrite page with more information.
Amazing. But a real opportunity to get yourself, we're calling it getting legal CX fit for 2021, because, you know, everyone you speak to, everyone's like, well, you know what, 2020 is pretty much done from a business perspective. I'm a little bit skeptical about that. I think, you know, there's still some business to be done this year, but, you know, getting yourself ahead, and we talked about this last week, thinking about 2021 is important. So if you're a law firm and you care about your clients and you want to get ahead of your competition next year, LegalCX is where it's at.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Ryan, for that. And thank you to Kirsty again for a great interview. If you've liked what we've been warbling about today, don't forget to like, comment and share on the platforms. And we'll put the link in the comment as well for the LegalCX website, so you can have a look and see what that's all about. I've been Richard Knight.
I'm off to have a cider. I'm Ryan Huxtable. Have a great week.
Cheers.